Welcome to Anniversary Edition. This week's episode is the 55th anniversary of Jason and the Argonauts. Before we go into that, let's introduce ourselves around the room. I'm Adam.
I'm Sophie.
I'm Tom.
I'm Kieran, and I made the mistake last week of saying it was the 65th anniversary of Jason and the Argonauts. Whoops.
That's fine. That's okay. When you're actually 65 like Kieran, you do tend to get confused about decades.
That's the one age joke you're allowed, youngster.
The usual spoiler warning, but I'm not going to go into all of that. If you haven't seen it, tough. You've had your chance. Jason and the Argonauts, I'm not even going to read off IMDb. Here's the plot. A prince tries to retake his... Wait, no, I'm going to have to... damn it. I should have prepared a plot. I don't want to use IMDb.
I've got a plot.
Go on.
Oh.
It's entitled Brat Looks for Dead Sheep.
I mean, sure. However,
Yeah.
he's trying to reclaim his stolen throne from someone who has no idea what he looks like, and that bites him in the arse later. Along the way, he attracts a crew. He gets a boat, and he takes on all kinds of mythological plasticine creatures.
He recruits a crew via athletic montage, was what I wrote down.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
And just calling out Greek names.
It's a shame. It's a shame they didn't have 80s rock for that montage when they filmed it.
Can we please put the best around underneath that montage?
That would have been perfect. So we're going to start by going around and asking people when they first saw it, given that, you know, I made light of Kieran's age, but no one here is actually old enough to have seen that when it came out in the cinema. Or were they, Sophie?
No, I was not old enough to see this when it came out in the cinema. I think I saw this for the first time when I was at home with my family, probably sat around on a Sunday afternoon and it was on TV.
The Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, the Sunday
Probably
matinee.
BBC Two
Yep.
movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Many times as Jason the Argonauts, Tom.
A few days ago.
Oh.
Yeah, when I watched it for the podcast. This is the first film I've ever seen, like Ray Harryhausen.
This is your first
Yeah.
Harryhausen.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll come back to you about whether that lived up to the legend. Kieran?
I like Sophie, I watched it on a Sunday afternoon with popcorn, and it was this past Sunday. I've seen bits of it before, and I actually realised I'd seen most of it before, but this was the first time I'd seen the whole thing in one sitting. I also have a memory, in my head, it's always a 2.5 to 3 hour epic.
Yeah.
It's 100 minutes long. It's only half as long as you think it is.
Are you
I mean,
sure? It
Yeah.
feels a
felt
lot
quite long.
longer.
It does. Oh, yeah, I'm not disputing that, but no, the runtime is like 99 minutes.
There's a bit of a spoiler about our feelings towards that film. It feels a lot longer, but also when I think about it, Jason the Argonauts to me is one of those films that I feel like I have always seen
Yeah,
again.
same.
I think you've seen all the key scenes. Because I think that's
Yes.
what happened to me. So, like, I'd seen the skeleton fight, I'd seen the harpy scene, I don't know if I'd seen the Hydra, I'd definitely seen the Talos scene. Yeah, and that makes me think I've seen the whole movie, but I hadn't. I'd never seen it from start to finish.
I sort of truncate it in my head. I think of Jason the Argonauts. I also think of Clash of the Titans,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which I remember being better than Jason the Argonauts.
Well, it's much later. Clash of the Titans is like 80 or 81.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the effects are a lot more developed.
Yeah.
The quality of the Harryhausening, the dynamo vision, what do they call it?
It's Dynama something.
I have this written down.
Dynamation? It's Dynamation.
Dynamation,
There we go.
that's it, perfect. Yes, the dynamation certainly was a lot better the further he got through it. We should go around and really let people know how we felt about watching the film, I think. I think that's really going to start driving the conversation. Sophie?
It felt really, really long, I've got to say. Watching it back. It wasn't terrible. It's definitely aged. The effects are interesting and make for interesting viewing now. But I didn't hate it.
I think the effects were pretty startling for the time.
For its
I
time,
sort
I'm
of
sure. Yeah.
Switched off. I tried to kind of switch off my effects analytical brain and thought, when this was brought out, this was probably unbelievable. Tom?
Imagine sitting in that audience and
Yeah.
Talos's head just moves, and I think that would have been pretty incredible to see.
There are a couple of shots that are still good. So there's a
Yeah.
couple of shots of the harpies where they're creeping up the stairs
Yeah.
towards the blind guy before the Argonauts try and trap them with the nets. They're really nicely animated.
Yeah, I think the skeleton
The skeleton
scene,
fight is still good.
Yeah,
But you have to look through the lens of like the terrible like double exposure photography
Yeah,
and that kind of thing.
yeah.
But
I mean,
you can tell it's almost like Terminator 2. You can tell when when an effect shot is coming up because the stock changes.
yeah. I think for me overall, funnily enough, I think it suffers from all of the problems that big blockbuster movies still suffer with today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think it's still got that problem of
It's still lots of effects and bad dialogue, isn't it?
lots of effects,
God, the dialogue.
bad dialogue, a really dull plot, and it's just there was just nothing, like no character development or anything like that.
Not just character. There's no character.
No.
None of the
No.
characters have a character.
No.
They're just ciphers there to spout
Yeah.
dialogue.
Like, you're not
And-
really invested in anyone, are you?
No, and it kind of made me feel like you need to know the story of Jason and the Golden Fleece before you see this film, which I don't.
No.
I mean, I'm not into the whole mythology stuff. I've
Yeah.
never been interested in sort of that kind of classics thing. They've never really appealed to me. So I kind of had a rough idea of what it was, but yeah, it's I kind of feel like the effects for their day are amazing, and a lot of it still stands up today. And sitting there looking at it, thinking this is almost how they did Jurassic Park.
What I liked was you can see
Yeah.
see the effort and the craftsmanship that went into the effects.
Oh yeah, you can
Yeah.
definitely see the effort behind it,
Hmm.
and the skill at the time, I
yeah.
think, as well.
Kieran?
Have I not just said everything?
I mean, you talked all over Tom's section.
Yeah, I did. It's campy, fun nonsense, but it doesn't stand up anymore.
It surprised me watching it back how little character development, how poor the dialogue
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. Well, I saw the writing credits come up, and I was like, "Oh, it's written by two women." And then I did some research. No, it's two guys with women's names.
Oh, great.
So Beverly Cross is actually was Maggie Smith's husband eventually.
All right,
Yeah.
Huh. How bizarre.
It's just a man called Beverly.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Oh, this is quite progressive." Written by
Yeah.
two women in 1963. A bunch of it's essentially tanned Greek men in mini dresses running around.
Yes. This was absolutely not a progressive film.
No, not remotely.
Medea, your character. Wow.
Yeah.
That's trash.
Yeah.
I have known you for 2 hours, but I think I love you.
Something I noticed was that there is no sort of long-term setup and then payoff in this film.
None.
I was
No.
thinking, particularly when Medea gets hit with the arrow.
Oh
Like, put
my
the fleece on
God.
her. It
That's
has
the
healing
worst
powers.
scene in the
I kind of
entire
wanted her
film.
to die. I felt really bad, but I was like,
Oh, that would've been
from the
interesting.
satisfaction of something interesting happening. Like, I
So
thought,
she gets shot in the back by a stray arrow,
Just
stray-ish
thunk.
arrow. Yeah,
Like, you don't even, there's no even like tension leading up to it. Like, oh no, there's an arrow coming. It's
Yeah.
just, she's walking, thunk.
yeah. And then Jason's like, "Get the fleece. It has healing powers." And they immediately get the fleece, put it on her, and she's fine.
And she just starts going,
Yeah.
oh yeah. She starts like rolling her body around like, oh, she's feeling it.
Maybe a golden fleece feels nice on the skin.
I mean, I have no doubt it's scratchy as shit.
Oh yeah, probably.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Wool's bad enough. Cover that in gold? No thanks. It'd be like dressing yourself in a Brillo pad, wouldn't it?
I quite enjoyed Honor Blackman and Patrick Troughton, the first Doctor, showing up.
Yeah.
oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, he's Phineas the blind man.
Yeah.
Wow.
I initially
did
thought,
not
Bernard
even
Cribbins, and then
remember
no, it's
that.
not. It's Patrick Troughton.
Yeah, and she was up in Olympia, wasn't she?
Yeah,
was
she's
the,
Hera.
Hera, the main
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
orchestrator.
Yeah.
Like, it's just them playing their games, isn't it?
I also liked how shifty like the Hera figurehead looked.
Yes.
Oh, that was terrible.
Oh yeah, I wrote that down.
That
Question
was
mark.
that was
It was-
for all the times that like Talos moving his head worked. Weirdly, the Hera head was
Didn't.
It was
Horrible.
it was essentially like a 50-foot version of those baby dolls you have where you tilt them up and they open their eyes.
oh yeah.
That's what it
I didn't
reminded me.
like it
And
at all.
there's the concept because the figurehead should be at the front of the ship,
Yeah.
and the dude who builds the ship puts it at the back,
Back,
looking
yeah.
over the crew, and he's like, "Why did you do that?" I don't know.
Yeah, he just said, "It's just the way. This is the way
Yeah, I just did
built
it. I don't know why.
He was
And he was
influenced
like,
by-
at least come up with some kind of like, well,
He
it will
must
look
be a
over the crew as and all
terrible
that kind of stuff. And it
shipment,
was just,
right?
Yeah.
Bad shipwright.
He was just like, oh no, I couldn't believe it.
And the Argo. I mean, we should probably talk about the Argo. Well, we used to talk about a lot about this film.
The Argo's a boat that must be incredibly heavy, because you think Hercules, who should be called Heracles because it's Greece,
Yeah.
would be able to move that by himself. What does he need the other 39 rowers for?
I mean, that's very true. But it gets picked up immediately by Talos. Like,
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
waved
First
about.
trip
That's,
out.
I have to say, that actually surprised me. I thought that was one of the best special effects in the entire movie, because I was
Yeah.
not expecting those two special effects to interact with each other at all.
It's the same
And
as
when
Yeah.
he picked it up, I was like, oh, Christ. Like, he's
He's
like,
actually
"Jeez,
picked
he's
it up.
actually
Yeah.
picked it up.
It's
Yeah.
the same as
boat.
Jurassic Park and Roger Rabbit. They have the effects interact with the real world a lot to sell them.
Yeah.
So the harpies interact with Phineas's fruit.
Yeah.
The skeletons obviously fight
Yeah.
Jason. The Hydra picks up a plasticine Jason
yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
in a bit that I didn't actually remember happening.
All right. Team question: Who is Jason?
Who is Jason?
Who is Jason?
What? So it makes me
He's
laugh.
just some baby.
He's just some kid.
Wronged.
son
He's
of
a
a
wronged
king.
baby who somehow knows that he's got to come back and like fight some dude he's never met or seen.
We don't know
You don't find anything else about him?
really why he wants a kingdom at all.
Oh, we do know something about him. He's only got one sandal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Occasionally two.
Occasionally two.
And
Yeah. It seemed to me actually at the beginning of this movie they set out the prophecies,
yeah.
and it would seem to be almost a perfect mashup of Harry Potter and the Fugitive. It was basically like,
On the run
Go
for the
into this,
one-sandaled
please.
man.
well, because he was just like, it was like, there's going to be a baby born that is going to come and destroy you, but we're not
Yeah.
going to tell you who it is. All I'll say is he's like a one-sandaled man, and it was just like it seemed like the mashup of the two worlds
Yeah.
colliding, and I was like, that's a movie I'd watch.
Why did Jason have to go and find the Golden Fleece? It's a symbolic thing.
Yeah, it was to prove that he was worthy
Worthy,
enough,
yeah.
and because the fleece would give him the power and the riches to
I mean,
rebuild
this is crazy.
the society.
A foreign nation controls that fleece.
Yeah, so he just goes and
Theoretically,
steals
according
it.
to prophecy, that foreign king's worthy of the throne.
Exactly, yeah. That's
and
why
he
he's
could have,
just
like started a war.
he's
He could
just a
have,
spoiled brat.
Terrible.
Oh, the geopolitics of this universe are very, very...
But it doesn't matter because
Yeah.
it's just gods playing with little boats on a map.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the big problem, I think, having prophecies involved in the film is that you can completely remove the agency of any character you want as long as there's
It's
a
all
prophecy involved.
preordained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But hey, this film's not all bad. It can't be, right? It's got many awards. It's generally well regarded by critics. Sophie, what did you like about Jason the Argonauts?
I kind of liked the interaction of seeing the gods playing with the people's lives, and I liked that element of it. And I liked the skeleton scene.
Yeah.
Like the fight in the end was good. Yeah, other than that, I suppose I have memories of watching it when I was little, and there's all these, they seem like huge adventures, because obviously each place they land, there's like a new villain to fight. So I kind of liked that, I suppose, that element of it.
Yeah.
But-
It's almost episodic.
Yeah, and I
The
quite
film.
liked that. It was quite satisfying in that way.
Tom?
I think the best thing about this is the skeletons.
I was actually quite surprised watching it that he did a fairly decent job of making the skeletons block the wild flailing
Yeah.
of the
Absolutely,
Argonauts.
and just from the moment they kind of appear out of the ground, I think that's where all the effects are at their best. I think that's where the integration between the effects and the people are the best.
Yeah, I agree.
And I've even got the skeletons down as my favourite performance.
Oh wow!
Because I think what I like about the skeletons is the fact that what makes them feel so real is the fact that they are always thinking. Because there's a lot of times when there's 3 or 4 attacking at once, and
The
you know,
skeletons probably had most character of
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
on the screen.
You
Yeah.
watch any kind of multi-person against one-person fight. There's always going to be a couple of stuntmen just waiting,
Yeah.
Wait for
and they're
their
just
cue.
waiting for their moment, just for their cue because of the timing. So they're just kind of waiting, and you can't. It's very difficult to avoid that unless you've got excellent stuntmen.
Yeah.
These skeletons, the ones that are always waiting for their moment, are doing something. They're looking for something. They're actually looking for their moment. They're looking for the thing. So they've gone to the trouble of animating those to always be doing something.
Yeah.
Because I think it was probably very painfully obvious that they weren't doing anything, because they're taking so long to create that shot.
Yeah.
It's not like a stunt scene where everything's going on at once, and your stunt guy's just kind of standing there. So they kind of ended up having way more character than anybody else because they had to put so much effort into them. So that's what I liked about the fact that they were always kind of... You can see them thinking and plotting what they're going to do. Or
The skeleton animation took something like 4 months.
Yeah.
For a scene that lasts about 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It
crazy.
is a big payoff, though.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, definitely.
for the time. I'm sure it was extremely worth
Oh, yeah.
doing. Kieran?
Yeah, the skeleton scene is my favourite bit. Like that still works, and I love if you see The Mummy, the Brendan Fraser film, The Mummy. They do an homage to that, but with CG mummies instead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That also works really well, and that's my favourite bit of that film.
CG mummies and the mummy are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, that was pretty much. I'm on the same page as Sophie. The gods messing around with the human lives
Yeah.
is fun. There's some effects near the beginning I quite like as well. So the gods, there's a lot of gods in disguise in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hera's appearances on Earth I quite liked.
Yeah.
I kind of liked the evil king a bit. I
Which
liked the
evil
scene
king?
when he went. The one who sends Jason off.
Pyros? Pyros? What's his name?
Pyros. It's a Pokemon.
Is it? Obviously, I
I
wouldn't
think
know
of
that.
Pyro.
I honestly cannot remember the name of the character because I'm not up on my Greek
No,
mythology.
I don't think I wrote it down either.
Peleus, something.
Peleus.
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 Yeah.
Peleus, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't that far off.
The scene where he's hunting down the 3 children of this king. He's been given his prophecy. He's hunting down the 3 children of the king. One of which is Jason. Jason is not there, but he goes into one of the girls goes into the temple of Hera carrying the baby sister, and he goes in after them. Very politely asks her if she is the daughter of the king.
I know, and she says, "Yes, I am."
And then when he finds out who she is, then he like cold-bloodedly stabs her in the back while
Yeah.
she's
Yeah.
Pretty mean.
praying, essentially. And part of me liked that. That sounds really bad. What I mean is I liked that it set up and showed how cold-blooded and evil he was.
Yeah.
You don't ever find out what happens to the baby though.
You don't find out what happened. No, it's assumed that he kills
He
it.
kills it, but it's never actually.
But that's Jason.
No, that's
No,
Jason.
the baby's not Jason.
No,
Yes, it is.
the baby's the sister.
The baby's the baby's sister.
Oh, really?
There was a baby sister?
Yeah,
Yes,
there were 3.
there were 3 children of the king.
Was there?
So
Yes.
because she
Wow, I
lays,
missed that.
she lays
Christ,
the
Tom
baby
was asleep for the
in
first
the
half
lap
an hour.
of
I thought
Hera.
the baby was.
I thought the baby was
Jason.
Jason.
No, she lays the baby girl in the lap of Hera, and she says, "Please
Yes.
watch over my sister."
Yes.
And then she says, "And watch over me." And then the guy that
They don't
was-
bother telling us where Jason is.
Well, no,
I
but you
see.
see him because
Ah.
you see the whatever the king's name is.
Peleus?
His like second in command tells the other soldiers like not to go in, and then there's a guy behind him running with a baby, and he doesn't tell them to run after him. He sees them.
Oh, I missed that bit.
No, I saw
You.
they escape.
Miss out.
They do escape. I remember seeing the escaping baby.
Yeah, and then so that happens. that
Tom's
happens.
escaping
before. That's Jason being taken away by
Okay.
a soldier because he refers to the fact that he was a soldier. One of his father's men
Right.
took him away and protected him.
I thought that was the same baby in the.
No, the baby
Ah.
is because she walks in carrying the baby and says,
Yeah.
that, "Please look after my sister."
So
Ah.
Peleus kills the baby being looked
In
after
theory.
by Hera?
Yes.
Yeah,
That's a confusing and conflicting character trait
Yeah.
right there.
yeah.
Because the very point that Peleus doesn't kill Jason is that he doesn't want to kill anyone protected by the gods.
Well, that's why I was like, it's annoying because that's never tied up. Because I thought,
You never go back to Peleus either.
no, you never like.
No.
There's
Pelias.
never
I
any
think it's
kind of
Pelias.
I'm going to say Pelias?
Yeah.
remedy of his story. There's never any resolution of
It
what
just
actually happened
like
to him.
Jason. I noted that it ends with a setup for a sequel.
Yeah.
Jason has the fleece and he has his woman. Let's watch them kiss. I have more adventures in store for Jason. The
Yeah.
end.
It's
Yeah, that
peculiar.
sucks. But then, at the same measure, I don't want another 100 minutes in this movie. So who knows? Jason kissing Medea, who doesn't show up for a full hour of this movie.
Yeah. And has a zip on the back of her dress during one scene.
Yeah, she
Does
has.
not.
Yes, she does.
Oh my goodness, I
That's
didn't
fine,
see that.
because the ancient Greeks were very devout people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they really were.
They had
Wow.
zips, probably
That's
Velcro.
so bad.
Yeah, they had very good
think it passed
beard
by.
trimming accessories.
Yeah.
There are a lot of quality beards and eyebrows in this film, I noticed.
Oh, some really nice ones.
Nice grooming.
I
yeah.
really liked Hera
yes.
in this
Yeah,
film. I
she's
think
good.
she was,
It was Honor Blackman.
Yeah.
yes, arguably the best character,
Yeah.
aside from maybe Peleus. Both people seem to have actual motivations, so that's handy.
I did note that Jason used up all his Hera favours very quickly.
So
He did.
quickly.
I thought,
I
right,
don't
he's
remember
got
that.
5 magic wishes. How's he use it? Oh, advice. Oh, advice. Oh, advice. Oh, advice. Oh, advice. He's
And I'm
done.
out.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, you really don't know how to use a god, do you, Jace? Good God. Wow. Yeah. Absolutely dreadful. How much of a dick was Hercules?
I
Just
wrote
useless.
I wrote that he was... Why was he a goofball as well?
Yeah, weird.
He was just like a bumbling
super
fool.
happy with his amazing strength, and then really greedy.
Yeah.
And also, like, they just picked that dude because he's really tall,
Yeah.
not muscular.
And hairy. And hairy.
Yeah, but
He's not
he's not muscular at all.
I really love it when Hercules comes on TV and I think I could beat that guy up. One hand behind my back. I don't know what the point was of having Hercules in this. I don't know the original Greek myth. I assume he was on the
Yeah,
Argo.
this is
I
my
don't
point.
remember.
Is I kind of feel like you need to know all of that mythology
Yeah.
because clearly, I think he was then going off to do his 12 talks of
Yeah.
Heracles,
Yeah.
Hercules, whatever you want to call
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Labours.
Yeah. So there was obviously like that's what he was going off to do, and they kind of make a little throwaway comment about it, and it's kind of
Yeah.
like, but it's not okay. It happens in the original text, but in this context of this movie,
Yeah.
he doesn't need to be there at all.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
See,
No.
I thought that he was already. I thought he'd already done them
Right.
because people.
He
knew
was
his
very
name.
famous at
That's
that
true,
point.
yeah.
Yeah. So I was
He's
like, oh,
certainly,
maybe he's already done his labours, and
Yeah.
that's that's
he
why
was
they're
very
referring to
famous,
him.
and he got onto the Argo without having to compete at all.
Mm-hmm.
So that was
He had to throw a
it's
frisbee.
entirely possible. He didn't have to throw a
He
frisbee.
didn't have to. The
Oh, that's
other
right,
guy
the
had
other
to
guy's
beat
beating
his
him.
Oh,
frisbee.
I liked that guy.
Yeah.
What, hang
That
on, no,
Hylas?
hang on.
Yeah.
Acastus, you mean?
No, Hylas.
Hylas.
I thought it was Acastus.
No, it was
The smart
Hylas.
one.
Hylas and Hercules are supposed to be lovers in the
Right.
original myth.
Didn't the two actors hate each other, though?
Yes, they did.
Did they?
Yeah, the actor who
interesting.
played Hercules thought Hylas was way too effeminate and hated his guts.
Oh, that's mean.
Oh, but there's a happy ending here. During the scene where they're robbing Talus's mausoleum, the effect used to make the treasure shine so brightly actually temporarily blinded both of them. They both had to go to hospital, and the time they spent recuperating from the severe ocular trauma actually made them great friends until the actor who played Hylas died
Wow.
years later.
Yeah.
Because the guy that played Hercules died quite young as well.
I mean, I imagine so.
Possibly he was blinded
Maybe.
and fell down a
Possibly,
manhole
yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
Hylas goes missing, and that's not really talked about in the original.
Oh yeah, because
myth.
Hercules
He
goes to
gets
look at him,
seduced
doesn't he?
by water nymphs whilst on the island.
Well-
Then gets
Interesting.
drained.
Is that a better way to go than crushed by a giant bronze statue, which was his fate here?
Yes.
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 So, two things about the Talos scene.
Uh-huh.
One, would you, if you were Jason in charge of the Argonauts, would you not fire the Argonaut who thought poking a giant bronze statue of a god in the toe with a stick was going to do anything? Because that's one guy's combat technique.
Yeah.
Also, just Jason basically beat him by undoing his petrol cap and draining his fuel tank.
Yeah,
Because that
he
is
pulls the
exactly
plug.
what
He
it looked
pulls the
like.
plug.
It's
Literally, yeah.
Achilles.
Yeah.
It's the same kind
And
of
that's
story.
rather like a
Possible.
shit, like, knowing thing, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can see the director nodding at the audience, like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. But he couldn't get Hercules' Greek name right. So,
No. But then, would audiences have known who Heracles was?
that's a fair point.
Probably not.
That's
I
a
mean,
fair
it would
point.
be a reasonable.
But that also happens if you've ever seen Hercules in New York, the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic.
Oh, it
Yeah.
happens all the
He
time.
is sent by the Greek gods of Olympus and called Hercules in that when he should be Heracles
Yeah.
as well.
Also, there's always loads of cross-referencing between Roman and Greek gods, and it's really annoying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're all the same people but with different names.
I did actually really like Mount Olympus in this. I thought it was reasonably well done.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that.
Casting of
That's good.
Zeus, that guy looks
There
like he
was
should
a
be
lot-
running a pub, not a pantheon.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of all of those, pretty much every shot in those sequences were visual effects shots.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So there was a
And it
lot
all
of work
worked
going
quite
on there.
well.
Yeah. There was a lot of even if it was just matte paintings for the backgrounds
Yeah.
or the copying the little version of Jason or the maps and stuff.
Yeah.
So there was a lot going on in those scenes, I think. And there was actually, I noticed there were a couple of VFX shots that weren't VFX shots. Like in today's blockbusters, there'll just be, oh damn, we didn't get a shot of these people in this location sticking in front of green screen. There's definitely
There's loads of
Yeah,
that.
there's definitely shots on the boat
There's
where there's
lots
no
of-
need for it to be an effect shot, but the guys they're just close ups and comped in and then background behind.
Yeah, there's an awful lot of dodgy rear projection in this
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
It's almost like James Bond going skiing in the 60s.
Yeah.
I did like the almost throwaway line that Zeus has, where he basically says, "If everybody stops believing in me, I cease to exist."
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
that's cool.
definitely
Yeah.
a sort of
The issue
rarely
of se-
visited subline where it's where the gods have to keep people believing in them.
I was going to say there's an occasionally touched upon discussion of secularism.
Yeah.
In a universe where gods can literally just show up and appear to people, have conversations with them, and then grow to 30 feet tall. Thanks, Hermes.
Yeah.
That was a weird effect.
Hermes, the god of leaving your parcels in neighbours' bushes.
Yeah. Or explode into blue fire, or become a smoke creature, or, just bring people up to Olympus for a chat. I feel like people believing in you isn't a problem.
Yeah. I agree.
Sophie, what do you particularly hate? Was there a scene in this film you were like, I want to switch it off now, but I can't because I'm a professional? Just one.
No,
Just one will do.
I'm just looking through my notes. There wasn't one particular thing. I think lots of little things. For me, I suppose it was marginally, some of the effects are marginally comical because they're, not good now. So just tiny little things like that kind of building as time went on, but it definitely felt like a longer film than I remember. Well, I mean, I say that. Maybe I'm being unfair. No, I don't really have a specific thing. Basically,
just
just
100 minutes of
just
mild
lots
regret.
of small things. Yeah, but I didn't think, I want to turn this off. I was
Okay.
quite happy to sort of actually watch it through to the end. But
That's good.
I wouldn't watch it again, probably.
That's great.
yeah.
That's a poster quote if ever I've heard one. Happy to watch it, but I wouldn't watch it again. 2 stars. Tom?
For me, it's the lack of character development, and then the plot written by a 5-year-old of
Yeah.
these people went here and they did this, and then they went there and they did that, and then they went here and they did this, and then everyone was happy. There's
Everyone
no,
cheered.
yeah, and there's no kind of like I said, there's no setups and payoffs. There's no kind of you've got no investment in Jason at all.
There's a surprising amount of impatience
Yeah,
in the way this film is told. It would have been simple enough to make Jason and Medea fall in love. It would have been
Yeah.
simple enough for anyone to have any kind of interpersonal
yeah,
relationship.
Introduce Medea in the first hour rather than the last 30 minutes is a good
Yeah.
start.
but the point is, it was produced by a guy who's famed for doing special effects. So it's okay. Let's get from one effect to the next as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
that
all they're
makes
doing.
sense.
It's just like, oh, here's a great set piece we can do. Let's go from here to there. It's the Michael Bay format of
Is this the
filmmaking.
Gareth Edwards problem?
Exactly, yeah. It's here's the big set pieces and the amazing effect that's going to look fantastic. We'll just get this person from A to B. That's fine. And it's literally just a travelling sequence. It's not like,
Yeah.
there's like I said, there's no character, there's no heart to it. There's no, you don't care why should Jason have any right to inherit this place. No one asks the people if they're happy under Peleus. Like, how do you know that Jason's going to be a better leader? Like, there's none of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things that they don't. You're just like, I don't really care if he does it or not.
You know what's weird? Peleus sends his son along on this trip as a spy.
He's a very fast swimmer, it turns out.
Extraordinarily fast swimmer. He's a spy and assassin. Because Peleus doesn't want to kill Jason, damning himself for all eternity, but he's totally fine his son doing it, but also his son doing it and waiting for like the entire journey.
Well, because he wants the fleece.
Yeah.
It's like, get the fleece, then knock him off, come back. I think that was the plan.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It doesn't really make any sense why he wants the fleece, though. Because
Just
it brings peace and prosperity,
shiny,
right? But he doesn't care about
Wants a new
that.
carpet. Wants a new rug in front of the fire.
Did you say, was it shiny?
Shiny.
Yeah?
It's shiny. Plus, chicks love it. Kieran?
The script is bad. It's dull.
Yeah.
It's a background film. It's fine to just have on, but I don't feel rewarded for paying attention to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
And
but
at the same time, I also feel like I didn't pay enough attention to it.
Oh no, you're not missing out on any detail here.
I think the detail you're missing out on is the fact that you kind of have to know the story.
It's as you've said, The detail we're missing out on isn't in the film, and that's why I feel like I haven't paid enough attention.
You're going to love this movie.
Well, at least that'll have like hyperlinks to the actual story.
Yeah.
No, I just still enjoy the effect shots, apart from Plasticine Jason when he gets grabbed by the Hydra.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of the stop motion stuff, I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. It's believable. It's believable enough. And then
the harpies were half-assed. Let's be real.
The harpies, when they're in close up, they look like something out of an episode of Morph.
They look like a 10-year-old made them.
Yeah. But in the wider shots, they're much better. When you can see how they're animated,
Yes.
that's much better. But when it got to Jason being picked up the Hydra, I was like, I can't believe they thought they could get away with that.
You're like, no.
I know this is old, but I cannot believe they thought they were going to get away with that.
For me, I was pleasantly surprised at the effects they could do. Even, not in a very refined way, the effects they could do.
Yeah.
In when it was made. I thought, some of this actually does. That's an effect that they've built and worked and sold to me. And I liked that, but Jason is, to me, a character who is a cautionary tale about what happens when you don't give a character a flaw or a drive. So many movies build their character despite the fact that as adults, not to do this. So many big movies create a character that has no flaws, no interesting character quirks, and they'll just put him in a place and people, for some reason, will eat it up. But Jason, in this film, in this setting, with no quirk, no flaw, the only thing he really wants is this fleece. We don't even know why he wants to be a king in the first place. He certainly has no plans there. Just doesn't work.
Well, there we go.
Does it hold up?
Only as a museum piece.
Agreed.
I think.
I think it's
a curio, and it's fascinating to look at the effects. But I think beyond that, I wish those effects were in a better film.
Yeah,
yeah,
and later on they will be.
Yeah,
I think
I assume I can't remember Clash of the Titans.
I think it's the birth of the special effects blockbuster, really.
Yeah,
or around that time. So I kind of think it has its place because of that. But yeah, I think as a story, as something that is supposed to grab you and entertain you, it doesn't.
Yeah,
I just remembered a great effect, one that really worked, and that is who I assume was Neptune holding the cliffs at bay.
No, that was Zeus.
That was Zeus?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
It was.
No, it wasn't.
I thought it was.
Zeus doesn't have a fishtail. Also, it didn't look like the actor who played
Really?
Zeus.
I thought it did.
He was much more ripped than the bloke who played Zeus.
Yeah, the guy I heard about, he was super ripped, and I thought that effect really worked.
That was okay.
That could have been a 90s effect. which is
damning with faint
which
praise.
is the nicest thing you can say about the effects in this film. That could have been a 90s effect. The way they sailed past him and he watched them go. I thought that was pretty great. So there you go. Holds up, Sophie?
Yeah, I think what everyone else has said. It's interesting to watch for what it was at the time, but it's something I think probably like Kieran, it's something that if it was on in the background, that would be okay.
It belongs in a museum, says Indiana Jones, in special effects of the decade.
Yes, it's very fitting for that.
Well, thanks for listening to us talk about Jason and the Argonauts. Tom, what are we going to be looking at next week?
Well, next week is Christmas, and the show's going to go out on Boxing Day. So we thought, why not have a Christmas movie? So, of course, we're doing Die Hard.
Marvellous.
Wonderful. Die Hard. What could go wrong? Well, it's time for me to wrap this up. This podcast was recorded in the Upbeat studio in Soho. For studio inquiries, drop us an email on studio@upbeatproductions.com. You can also find us on Twitter. Head to @UpbeatProd to see what we're up to, and @Upbeat_Ents for our film coverage and entertainment news. Thanks a lot for listening. Say bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.